I don't know about where you are, but it's been getting pretty cold and winter here, so it's been a great time to start on the Advent of Winter short story collection. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the first portion that I've read of the Advent of Winter short story collection that is featuring all kinds of different indie authors, and it's been a really fun time going through. This was, if you didn't see, it was a Kickstarter. It was run by Dom from Dominish Books, and I'll link him down below. And there were a couple of different options, but I did the one here where every day you get the next ebook of the next short story and then can kind of read. And I was keeping up to date at first, and then I got kind of behind. I'm a little bit behind again now, but I've read the first 8, so I figured it's about a third, and that's a good spot to kind of make a video and talk because there's a lot of different stuff going on with this. So here I'm going to briefly just talk about what each one was, talk a little bit about it, my thoughts on it, and we'll kind of just go from there. This will be fun, I think. So we started off starting very strong with The Patchskin Woman by Cal Black. This is an author who I do have a couple of books on my TBR that I still need to get to, but I haven't read yet. So there's a lot of these that most of the authors either are ones that I know and love, or that I'm really excited to read. So this was a really cool way to try out some of their writing. And this story is kind of a fairy tale-esque, which is normally a negative for me. I don't tend to vibe with fairy tale-esque kind of stories, but I actually really liked this one. I thought it worked really, really well with the setting. And so we have Leda, who is chosen to be sacrificed by her village to the Winter Queen in order to basically make the winter better for them and have an easier winter. And so she is kind of cast out and is supposed to, go out into the woods and be offered to the Winter Queen, and she's marked so that she will be taken by the Winter Queen. But she meets and I'm drawing a blank on the term now, but it's kind of like the fairy folk type of creature is the feel this has from like English folklore that she randomly meets. Tells her how she can avoid it if she goes and kills 3 magical animals and takes their fur and or feathers and uses that to basically create a cloak that will hide her from the Winter Queen. And so she goes off to try to do that. So has like I said, very kind of fairy tale-esque, meets one of the Fae. They put her on a quest, has to find these 3 magical animals. But the way that it was done and the varying reactions and things that happen as she's trying to go and complete this quest, I thought were just really powerful. And then the ending as well really just kind of brought home all of the themes really, really well. So I really enjoyed this, even though the fairy tale kind of feels normally doesn't work for me. It did really big here, and it has me very interested to finally get to some more Cal Black. I know the stuff that I have is very different from this, but I'm still just excited after seeing the writing style and me enjoying it to continue. Next up we had Rite of the Tundra by Jim Wilborn, and I've read his book, The Seventh Cadence, as well, which was really interesting. It had some different, a lot of different kind of things going on with it, so I was curious to see what we had here. And we have Remy, who wants to prove himself basically as a man, and he's going on this kind of like rite of passage type of thing, which is a hunt. And he's going with Lucien, who is a much more experienced hunter. And then there's also kind of something in there where they are performing like rites for the dead, where they and they're in a frozen tundra, so they like put the body on like a kind of pedestal thing, and then carve in their like eulogy on like the stone and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of some elements here as well. But it's him going, trying to prove himself, being brash. And then Lucien trying to kind of rein in and control it. So this did set up some interesting things with kind of the magic and with just the ideas of the rites for the dead being very important in this culture. So it had some interesting bits there. It's your normal young brash kind of young person, which I feel like maybe it's because I'm getting older and grumpier, but I have less patience for those types of characters anymore. So this one was solid as well, and had some interesting stuff going on here with it, but probably not. I really liked Patchskin as well. I guess I'm not ranking these, so I don't know where I'm gonna go. The next one was Innocence Lost by H.C. Newell, and this had a very different feel from the others, but you had Steph, who is searching for his daughter after she disappears into the night, essentially, and he thinks that she must have been like taken by some sort of creature. This was really dark. Like, it was a very wintry setting that was just very dark, and with seeing what he's doing, kind of revealing more of what's happening, and the kind of like mix as we start to see like, you know, like demons and magical beings that are really powerful and kind of stuff as well. So really did it have this just very dark feel, and it was kind of a shorter story, but has me very curious because H.G. Newell is another author that I'm planning to get to with you at the Forbidden Realms. And I have the first couple books there. So another one where I'm like, this is really dark, and just kind of the tone. So I'm curious to see if it's going to be a similar tone in those books. And so I'm very curious. And then next up, we had Frosted Embers by L.L. McCree. This is another author that has been on my list a long time. There's too many of these that I haven't read yet, and there are definitely more too. But been on my list for a long time to read L.L. McCree, and I hope to definitely get to some of her stuff soon. But this one was Frosted Embers, and we're following a character called Tessero, who was banished from this city, and he is trying to like sneak back into his brother's house, and his brother was executed for the like experiments that they were doing, and he's trying to get the dragon, the little dragon that was left there. And so this sets up a lot of elements of what's going on here, because we have the city is very warm and hot, and they apparently use dragon fire to kind of power the city, and there's some other things that can be done with it as well. And then outside of the city, it's just this like winter wasteland, and shades are coming and will, you know, try and kill people. And so when you're exiled, you're supposed to go fight the shades basically until you die. And so that's what he's supposed to be doing. But some of the stuff that him and his brother were doing essentially is what got him banished and or his brother killed, it seemed like. So there were a lot of interesting bits here. Now the thing is here, this is another one where it felt a little bit like Sandersonian in kind of the characters and the explanation of the magic going on a little bit. Not like a lot, but normally, once again, I feel like this is what I'm saying with like the fairy tale one. Normally, when I read books like that, I tend to not like them as much if it feels like Sanderson but isn't. But I was really interested here in just the way that it was set up, the use of dragons, the world, and the way it was going. So this is another one I quite enjoyed as well. And so I'm really curious to get to more L.L. McCree. And then we had Frozen Hell by Kareem Salaman. And I've read one of his books, and I think the book I read wasn't fully for me, but it was interesting to see here what we had. So we have Aiken and Berna, which are a couple, and they have their daughter Sigrun. And they have these kind of mysterious heirloom blades. And this is another one, though, where it's Sigrun is young and brash and decides to take the blades and go off and do something because she's mad that everything's been hidden from her. So kind of thing that not really necessarily for me. But they're then, after this happens, it basically like alerts another god or titan to their presence, and some demons come to attack them. This uses a lot of Egyptian gods. In a lot of ways, they're referred to as titans as well, but you have like mentions of Ra and Apophis and Horus and some others like that. So I thought that was really interesting to kind of have those in the mix, but then kind of plays off of there's this much bigger type of battle going on between them. And that the character Aiken is in there. We also get to see some like ice magic and some other things. So there was a lot of cool stuff here. It just, I don't know, the feel of it is, I think this is just one of those things where, like, for me, personal preference style-wise, it just didn't mesh super well, but did a lot of interesting stuff, a lot of cool stuff to see used in the way that it was. So still was an interesting one for sure. And then next up we had Soul Shard by Tiago Abdallah, who I really just need to just drop things and read Tiago's book at some point. It's been on my list for so long. I'm really excited to read it. I still haven't read it, and I really just need to read it. It'll happen at some point. A Touch of Light. I was blanking on the name. Yeah, I still need to read it. I have the prequel too, so I really need to get to those. It's been way too long. But anyway, so Soul Shard was interesting. And I wondered too, it's like, I don't know if these are at all related to these authors' works, but it gets me curious. This is about Rena, who is a kind of like junior apprentice demon hunter, and her and Ven, they're out and they're trying to, basically, they're supposed to track a low-level demon and to prove their fitness basically to continue. But they find a lot more than they bargained for with a very powerful demoness. And then Ven's father, McCall, who is a master demon hunter, ends up arriving and trying to help, and things don't go super well. And then we're kind of we time jump, which is interesting in a short story, and it worked for me. But interesting doing a time jump in a short story, and we're kind of dealing with the fallout of that and trying to make some things right. So the setup of the demon hunters and the way that they work, some of it reminded me a little bit of Blood of the Spear, which I thought it was used really well there too by Mark Timony. With it, and so I'm curious. I think there's so much you can do with that. So this is another one of those short stories that I enjoyed, but has me really curious to see what more could be expanded in this world in something full length. So has me really even more interested to finally get to Tiaga's actually mainline series. I will hopefully very soon. And then we'll just have a couple more. Next up was Bloodfire by Palmer Pickering. And this one was another one that was one of my favorites. Overall, and something about the way this one was written just really got to me. But it was such an interesting world. So you have Essa, who uses like essence magic, and it's talked about where like basically she can sense the plants around her. She can sense her children and their ox and kind of be connected through them through their essences essentially. And then her and her family are taken, and she's to be killed and like strung up as a witch. And then I won't spoil what happens there, but we get to see more of like how she's going to plan to use her magic basically to do it. And it's the way it was written with like the connections of everything and using the magic. Like the people who took her are people who had kind of abandoned the old ways and now worship a single god instead of like respecting the earth. So you get some themes and things that you can find common with our history, but it's just was interesting the way that it's written, and I was like just pulled in and just like enraptured with this one. It was very short. It was one of the shorter ones I've read, and yet I was very much into it. So really liked this one. I have read one of Palmer Pickering's books, which I can't remember the name of any books right now. It was I'm drawing a blank. I'm drawing a Heliotrope. There it is. It was gonna bother me if I didn't get it. I read that, and that was another one too that pulled me in right away. And I overall enjoyed. But I definitely will have to check out more of Palmer's stuff because this was a fantastic short story. And then last, but certainly not least, we had Cold Silver for Souls, which is a really great name. I just want to say off the bat here. That something about that just hits the ear really well for me. And that is by Tori Tekken, another author who I still really need to read their stuff. She has her new book Bloodstones, which I'm really excited for because that sounds right up my alley. And then I know she has Phase, which sounds less up my alley, but I was still interested to try. And Tori's also a great booktuber. And someone I've interacted with a ton, so I still really need to get to Tori's stuff as well. But this was, we were following a bounty hunter who has an animated, which is, in this case, literally like a reanimated corpse that she's used magic where you put part of your soul into something else in order to animate it, essentially. And she's a bounty hunter and looking for somebody who had stolen some gold from like a mining supervisor type of guy going through these mountains. And there are also shades in the mountains that will come and try to kill you and take your soul. So interesting setup with the way it is. And the tone I thought was really interesting as well because it has a very specific tone as well here, which I feel like gives me a little bit of an idea about how her other stuff may be written to an extent. So it was an interesting tone. The magic system seems a little bit familiar to Breath and Awakening in Warbreaker, although it's done a little bit differently and kind of given with a little bit more cost because there's more permanence. Like it says in there that if you give part of your soul to animate something, you can never get that back. So I thought it was interesting. There's a darker and a deeper connotation there with using the magic, and I always like the idea of using magic like that, having a price, that kind of thing. I find interesting. So this one has me really curious and tonally seemed like it'd be the kind of thing where it's really well written, has a little bit of a light feel that masks when it's actually getting deeper. And so toes the line really well between different tones in a way that's very cohesive, which can be hard to do. So really curious to read more of Tori's stuff as well. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on the first 8. I tried to keep it pretty brief since I was talking about 8 different stories. Let me know if you've been reading these, what your favorites were out of these, if there were agree, disagree on any of them. I know some people posting in Discord, so there's a lot of wide varieties, and I feel like especially with short stories, short stories I feel like are almost always hit or miss for a lot of people because either it works or it doesn't, and it's pretty short, so it doesn't have time to win you over if it hasn't. So I'm always curious to hear people's thoughts on these. And if you're reading or excited to, because I'm very excited to continue, I'm going to try to get back caught up again for the other ones, and then I may try to do some other videos like this, breaking up, talking about the different short stories and the other bits as well. That's it for this one, though. Make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the link in the description, as always, for the Wizardly Enclave Discord if you want to chat books, whether this book, this collection, or any books, really anything at all. It's a lot of fun. We'd love to have you. And, of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.